Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. I'm Benji Messer, music director. I use he, him pronouns. Today is the Sunday before Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and our opening hymn is a song from the civil rights struggle in which he played such an important part. Please rise in body or spirit and sing with us. We'll be doing this a cappella, and choir, here's how you know where to start.
I woke up this morning with my mind. It was set on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, Lord. Set on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. It was set. Walking and talking with my mind was set on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind, Lord, set on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind, it was set on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Walk, come on and walk, come on and walk, go with your mind on freedom, walk, come on and walk, come on and walk, go with your mind on freedom, walk, come on and walk, and down top, you gotta talk. You gotta talk, go with your mind on freedom. Talk, you gotta talk, you gotta talk, go with your mind on freedom. You gotta talk, well, it ain't no harm to keep your mind, keep it set. Please remain standing for our chalice lighting.
Good morning. My name is John LaBarbera. My pronouns are he, they, and I am one of your worship associates today. Join me as we recite our covenant and Sharon Heiss lights our chalice. Sharon is the widow of Jesse Heiss, one of our beloveds we're memorializing this morning. If you're watching remotely and have a chalice with you, please light it with us. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant. Please be seated.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome. I am the Reverend Christine Dance. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the minister of this amazing congregation. In this sacred space, we celebrate our humanity, our diversity, and the boundless love that unites us all. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, this time, today in particular. It is a congregation that is theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. Our doors swing wide to embrace all who seek a comforting place. May our worship today be a source of inspiration, a comfort in challenging times, and a call to action. If you are new here, we are so glad that you found us. Anyone new? I met a couple of you at the door. Oh, welcome, new folks. We are so glad to have you. We are so glad you found us. Each Sunday is different here. You just never know what you're going to get. So please come back a few times to really get to know us. I do have a few announcements. There is a very exciting climate justice revival that is sweeping the UU world, and we are going to be part of it. On Saturday, February 1st, we will host a UU climate justice revival to collectively reimagine a spirit-filled and liberatory future. Our congregation will identify opportunities for climate justice in our unique context, develop a vision of a flourishing future, and enable folks who attend to understand their roles in our interdependent ecosystem of creating climate justice and collective liberation. It's a multi-generational event with activities for kids and adults. Snacks and lunch will be provided, and it will be tied into Sunday's worship the next day. You can register or RSVP through Compass or through the civic engagement table at the back. And if we didn't have enough happening tomorrow, the Arizona legislature session begins tomorrow, and many bills contrary to UU values are in the works. So get ready to speak up. Request to Speak is a system unique to Arizona, allowing citizens to weigh in from home on legislative bills that are in committee. We're going to have a training on the RTS system today after service in room 12. So now, let us gather ourselves, center ourselves, and draw deeper into the present moment and our worship together.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Katie Resendez, and I am the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. Sometimes when we come in on a Sunday morning, it's in the middle of a weekend that's been very, very busy, and we come just so that we have a second to sit down and be still and let someone else do the thinking and decision-making. And we hear some of the messages, but mostly it's just being still, giving us a chance to meditate or think. Sometimes we come in on Sunday mornings and our hearts are full and we are so excited to be with our community, and it's that chance to check in with every single person and then watch the minister speak something that speaks directly to our heart and reminds us to go out in the community and celebrate more. And sometimes we come in on a Sunday morning and our hearts hurt, and the week has been hard or the day has been hard, and we're carrying a heavy sadness, and we sit alone, and we don't even sit in the most comfortable seat. We find one that is uncomfortable on purpose, and we sit and we feel very, very alone. Today's service is a day for those times when you would sit alone, but instead we're going to sit together, and we're going to talk about things that we don't necessarily like to touch with our hearts and our brains. We're going to talk about sadness, we're going to talk about death, and we're going to be okay. Because we can do this together and because it's important to do. I want to point out some things that are a little bit different because we know today is going to feel a little bit different. Okay. Addie and Bela and Kaylee and Isabel set up an art area down here where normally just the kids sit. There's all sorts of art supplies. There are clipboards. There is paper. Oftentimes, and Felix is using them right now, oftentimes people find comfort and are able to reflect better if they're creating something. Make sure that if you are doing something, be it playing with something that has texture, drawing, looking at your phone, that those things are drawing you deeper into the service, right? And helping you focus more. Because today we will all benefit by everyone focusing more into one another, okay? And being together. Another thing about today, we have amazing music from our choir, songs that you will recognize, and a new requiem. But when the choir is singing, let's all focus into them. And for you, that might mean looking. It might mean looking down. But whatever it is, give your whole ears to the choir so that they can give us their whole hearts when they sing. The other thing, we have a space that's kid-friendly, kid-focused, and then we have a space that is filled with candles. Candles usually have to do with fire. I was recently asked what makes a multi-generational service good and was told to give wrong answers only. And one of my colleagues said lots of fire and lots of children. I will say that the kids in our congregation are actually pretty good with fire, right? They've all lit the chalice. They all understand it. So clearly the problem is the adults. Don't play with the fire. Be careful around the fire, okay? We want to keep one another safe, okay? Rev Christine will lead a bit of a conversation for together time, and then we'll move through service. Let's take a deep breath together. And we'll hold one another in this time. Oh, I have one other thing. I'm going to use a sign today that I don't usually use. I often use meditate and reflect for quieter times during service, but today I'm going to use one that I don't use very often, and it's this one. Shh. Just reminding us to be quiet. And Felix, we're going to practice this. So when it says, shh, can you put the marker down so it'll be quiet and help your marker friend be quiet? Beautiful. Shh. And then when it goes away, you could go back to drawing. And the same goes for you all. When you know the shh is there, that might be a time to put your phone down or to focus in more, let your hands settle, and let yourself find quietness. Okay? But it's not up right now, so we'll let Rev Christine talk.
And I would love to invite the kids up or anyone who is young at heart. And I'm going to have you stand behind the table because I'm actually going to have you help us. Come on up. And some of you can be around the side, or if there's not enough room, you can go around. So there's a holiday tomorrow. Does anyone know what it is? What is it, Addie? President's Day is in February. It's close. That's a different one, but you're very close. It's coming soon. Yes, Bela? It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day tomorrow. So that is when we celebrate and remember the great man who helped win the civil rights movement. But today we are also combining that with something where we're going to remember people who have died in this congregation. And we're going to talk about how those two things are related. So do you all see all of these things here on these beautiful little strips? Each of these candle holders is for someone who has died in this congregation in the last, say, 5.5 years. And I thought it would be nice that if we could all get involved and prepare the table for them as we talk. So there are tapers right here. And if you can respectfully and gently, but sturdily, and it's okay if a taper breaks, it's okay if it falls, but just kind of put a taper in each of these. And you all can take us there. Good job. Wonderful. Thank you. Has anyone here had anyone who has died? Do you know anyone? Yeah, Addie? And what do we do when we're sad when someone has died? Are there things that we do? Does anyone know? Some people pull out photographs, and for a memorial service, they make a PowerPoint so they can see all of the pictures of their lives. What are other things that people do? Yeah. Beautiful. Visit the gravesite and give it flowers. That's beautiful. And we do that to kind of remember them, right? And to make things pretty around that. Great. What else do we do? And when they come back alive, they have flowers. I mean, that we all have different theologies here. So that is, does that fit in there? There. How about that? You just kind of got to shove it in there. How are you all doing? It looks like we've got just a couple more. Felix, do you want to put that in one of those? Do you want some help? So this is what we're going to do to remember them is we are going to light candles. Oh, you're doing so good. I'm going to just kind of screw that in a little bit. There you go. Good job. Thank you. Good. We're going to light candles, and we're going to share some photographs, and we're going to say some names. And sometimes we might remember these people with really good, warm feelings. And sometimes we might get sad. Why is someone up there? Because they work on sound and video up there. See, they're waving to you. That's how we make all of this magic happen. Isn't that magical? So you all, I don't know that I could picture a more beautiful table or any of you more beautiful decorating it. And that is gorgeous too, Felix. Thank you all for preparing this for us. I really appreciate it. And as we have the ritual, you'll know that you were part of making this ready. You can go back to your seats. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Bela. Watch out.
Each week, we split our offering between this congregation and an organization that shares our values. For January, our Share the Plate partner is the Art Resource Center in Tempe. The Art Resource Center is going on 21 years as a nonprofit, collecting art supplies and giving them away free of charge to teachers of all ages and subjects, charities, shelters, after-school programs, city programs, museums, theater groups, and artists of all ages. They have 4,000 square feet filled with supplies. They're all volunteers, and no one makes a penny. Everything they give away has been donated to them by others. For all that you give, we are so grateful. Ushers, thank you for your willing hands in helping us pass the plate.
We recognize that our lives are interconnected. Today, especially, we are recognizing that. And part of our journey as community is sharing our significant milestones, our joys and sorrows. You can put a note in the chat if you're on Zoom. And if you want us to read a joy or sorrow next week, there is a table, just in the small table at the back, with note cards for it. But before we get into those, there are a few that I want to name in our world and also in our community. Early this morning, there was a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine. I have so many mixed feelings of this. I am so glad that the fighting and the killing has stopped. And I am so sad for all of those who have died, who have lost their homes, their beloveds, for the hunger, for the fear. And we acknowledge that the hatred that has been there for generations is higher than ever, and we know this conflict is not over, but we give thanks that the killing has stopped for now. I also want to remember all of those affected by the LA fires that are still burning and tell you especially about some of our Unitarian Universalist connections. I am friends with both of the ministers in the Pasadena-Altadena area. One of them estimated that half of her 700-member congregation is displaced. A different UU minister colleague lost her home. Let us continue to hold them all in care and love as the trauma continues. I turn to some of the joys and sorrows in our community that I want to let you know about. Ellie Murphy, who is one of our beloveds, fell in her apartment at Beatitudes. She was in the hospital for a few days, and she is now in a rehab center in Glendale. She has gotten several visits from friends and our caring team, and there was a special group of folks that went and sang to her on Friday. I saw her yesterday. She was in good spirits, but quite tired of being there. I also want to let you know that Reverend Walt Weeder, a retired UU minister who is a member of this congregation, fell both on Thursday and Friday, and he's at Banner University Hospital. I also visited him yesterday. He was very grateful for the visit. And Lynn Raby is also in the hospital. She's got the flu and pneumonia. And she says, we heard from a text that she is doing okay, which, given Lynn's very positive nature, means I think she does not feeling very well at all. I want to name with that I know of at least 7 people in the congregation that have the flu right now, and there are 3 of them in the hospital. So please be careful. Please know that it's going around, and take care of yourself as she puts on her mask. Now, other ones from our community. I have a joy from Lottie and Enid, and the joy is Charlotte started culinary school. Congratulations, Charlotte. From Joan Gale, I am joyful that I am able to watch service from home as I take care of a cold that became difficult this week, and I am recovering. We hope you returned health soon, Joan. From Frances Wiggett, Frances says, I have been burdened with sciatica flaring up for the last 2 months, and I apologize for my absence during all that time. Walking is difficult all too often. No need to apologize, Frances, and we hope that you get some relief soon. And from our folks here, I've got a joy from Nigel and his family. Nigel says, I am very joyful to say I have survived my first major surgery. I broke my wrist on Friday night, and I'm just very thankful that it wasn't my leg or my head. I can't call this anything but a joy. Is that so, Nigel? Right? And Nigel's family is also thankful, especially for the amazing medical care he is receiving and the socialized health care he has access to as a former foster child. Nigel is resilient, amazing, and healing. And I have to say, I thought Nigel was rubber. I never imagined that he would break anything. So I wish you well, Nigel, and heal fast. From Carolyn Allenby. Carolyn says, a joy. I woke up very early today and went to the holiday letters, determined to finish before sunrise. The joy is looking again at the photos of great nieces and nephews from infants through college age. I wish I could see them in person, but I'm happy to know they are thriving. From Tricia Amato. Tricia says, my brother-in-law is struggling after 2 massive heart attacks, and he may never fully recover. And from Carl Bailey. Carl says, I'm going in for a biopsy to determine the nature of a growth on my tonsil. We will be with you and holding you as you go through that. Whew. It's a lot, right? May our joys and sorrows, those that are named and those that are still held in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, help us draw closer and care for one another. Please join me in a moment of silence and grounding. So might it be. Martin Luther King Day is when we often remember the prophetic man whose words fueled the civil rights movement. But I believe we cannot speak about the man without acknowledging the context that he came from. He was a preacher from a Black Baptist church. His church and many like it were places of inspiration, planning, and of grieving. It was in the same church that they grieved the harms of slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and so much more. And it was in those churches where they mourned those who were killed in the movement, including the 4 little girls killed in the church bombing in Birmingham, Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy who was lynched in Mississippi, Medgar Evers, who worked for the NAACP and was killed in Mississippi, and Malcolm X, who was assassinated in 1965. And I mention those because those are names that many of us still remember. But there are so many names we don't know. If you ever get the chance to go to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, please go. Has anyone been? A few. In it, there are large slabs of concrete that are all around and that you feel like you are walking through. It is a holy place. Each slab of concrete is for every single county where a lynching occurred. And there are hundreds of these slabs. And engraved on each of these slabs are the names, sometimes just a few, sometimes dozens, sometimes over 100, of all of the people that are known that were lynched in that county. It is stunning, haunting, daunting, hard to comprehend, and a truly visceral experience. But I know this. all of those people were probably mourned in Black churches in their communities. Those churches held them as they mourned. We are not in the civil rights movement now, although the fight for civil rights continues, and I do believe in future generations they will look back and call this a different movement, because boy, whew, this one's tough, isn't it? We have not had members of this congregation murdered, and yet this congregation has mourned so many of our beloveds these last few years. Some of you know a few of them, some of you know many of them. Some of them died after long, fulfilling lives, and way too many of them died too young and in tragic ways. This fall, I compiled a list of all of our beloved UUCP members and friends who had died since I've been your minister, and I shared it with leaders in the congregation. My reaction and their reaction was the same every time. We had known about the individuals, but we really didn't realize just how much loss this congregation has experienced. And we wondered how many of you recognized just how much loss we have individually and collectively experienced. And that was when we said we need to have service where we can ritualize this, we can recognize it, we can mourn. And we wanted to tie it to a service where we recognize the role of a faith community in helping us hold grief, memorialize those who have died, and hold each other in community. With this acknowledgement, we can wonder and imagine how this has changed us, individually and collectively. We can be curious about the role of UUCP in this difficult season. And we can recommit ourselves to caring for one another, knowing that we all are carrying our own loss and grief. I want to give you the scope of this so you understand before we have a ritual to remember these beautiful individuals. It is typical, so my colleagues tell me, I have not experienced this yet, for a congregation of this size to have 3 to 5 memorial services a year, usually of members who have had long lives. UUCP has had 44 deaths and 38 memorial services since I started here in August 2019. That is way above the average. Most of these were members, but I'm also including a few who were close family of members, past and current UUCP staff, and families at the school that meets here during the week. 15 of those deaths have been what I call tragic. People who have died either in sudden or tragic ways, have died way before they should have, or have left school-age children behind. We had 4 youth that lost parents in 5 months in 2023. And we lost 4 youth under the age of 21. These are incomprehensible numbers, and it's hard to take that all in. And I just need to acknowledge that this is alongside 5 harassment incidents with alt-right Christian nationalists, a case of sexual misconduct last spring, and that pandemic thing. And a death not mentioned in these numbers is that of my own mother in 2022. This congregation has seen so much loss, and it has held so many people. And like the churches of the civil rights movement, we have held all of that tragedy while living through these times that are nothing but challenging. So I ask you to hold your hearts, hold this space, and hold each other as we remember those we have lost. I invite our worship associates to come up as we breathe, as we feel, as we mourn. Jinx, I have the starting candles. Yep, you might be back there. Hold on just a moment for a candle. No, let's use, yeah, there we go. And you can light them in the chalice. With each name, we have a picture, if it was available, and we will light one of these tapers that the children set up for us. With each one, I invite you to hold your heart and grieve and remember their names. Gretchen Manker. John Henry Waddell. Alice Williamson. Nick Vodachenko, who was 40 years old. Ruth Brownstein. Sarita Douglas. Sarah Balout, who was 20 years old. Dick Schaefer. Cindy Young. Jane Grenard. Robert Williams. Judith Brewer. Dorothy Ekman. Bill Parker. Larry Reed. Jesse Heiss. Billy Butler. Barbara Barnes. Lynn Ellsworth. Nancy Beach. Ruth Thistlethwaite. Christopher Crespo, who was 20 years old. Carol Finkelstein. Bill and Linda Kessler, who died within 4 days of each other. Karen Kurtz, who left behind Arisa Kurtz, 12 years old. Shirley Odegaard. Arlene Salmon. Deanna Magoo, the mother of our administrator, Stephanie Brightell Vigil. Reggie Watson, who left a 13-year-old son. Alex Luce, who left 2 sons, ages 16 and 12. Jan Wise. Addie Rayburn, who was 21 years old. Beverly Chapman. Leroy Michael. Sue Kennedy. Jacob Fallon. Roy Miller. Mark Stallworthy. Kayla Clark, who was 38. Cyrene Clark, who was 12. And Jackson Clark, who was 5. Marina Hoffman. And Jean Lawton, who we are memorializing on February 8th. Join me in a moment of silence. Now I invite you, our beloveds, to come up and light a candle. There are tea lights in front of these representing all of those that we've loved. You can light a candle for any and all of them, or for any loss that you've had that you are still grieving, or all of that. I invite you to come up in a spirit of reverence, and our worship associates will hand you a candle to light, a tea candle there. Come forth, let us mourn together.
So, Eliza Gilkison wrote her Requiem, which we're about to sing, to memorialize the hundreds of thousands of victims of the 2004 tsunami in the Indian Ocean. And she was inspired by the Catholic prayer Ave Maria, which begs Mary to pray for us in our time of need. And so this felt to me like our own wave of great loss, and we sing it now in the face of that wave.
Yesterday we had Starting Point, which is a 4-hour introduction to UUCP, UUism, and an introduction to each other for new folks. We had 19 people there, with 8 others who wanted to be there but couldn't make it. We always start these sessions asking folks to introduce themselves, telling a little bit about their religious journeys, and answering the question, why UUCP and why now? I don't remember if it was the first person, second, third, introduced them, and then to answer that final question said, because the world is on fire. Just like that, there were smiles and nods and groans of solidarity. Person and person got up, and because it was so relevant and there were no other words to say it, it became the line of the morning. I'm here because the world is on fire. Sometimes it was accompanied with and I need community. Sometimes it was, and I don't want to feel alone in it, or the such. But we were all in agreement. The world is on fire and we need each other. I believe that it is a faith community, a house of worship, a congregation, a church, a temple, a mosque, a meeting house, whatever you call it, that is uniquely poised to get us through a world that is on fire. Now, there are many organizations that can help people come together in community. You can have bridge groups, you can have brunch groups, you can have book groups, you can have senior centers. But there is something about death that brings folks to a house of worship and a minister. It is a unique time, and it is the church in all of those ways that I just defined it, that knows how to hold grief, that has experience in memorializing it, that can name the unspeakable. We have all kinds of people in our community, those who are so involved that this might as well be their jobs. There are some regular attendees who know a lot of people, and there are some who only come occasionally but still consider this their faith community. But they all have something in common. They all call their minister when a loved one dies. They may not know what they're asking for, but they know they're supposed to call their minister. I want to tell you, one of those names was Nick Vodachenko. I came in on a Wednesday morning, and he was in the lobby, and he was crying. And I hadn't met him before. But he's like, I've been a member here for a long time, but it's been a long time since I was here. My son died last night. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, so I'm here. They come, they find their house of worship, they find their minister. That's what we do. That's what we are called to do. That is what I am trained to do. That is something only a religious home can do in that way. It really is unimaginable the amount of grief that has passed through this congregation the last few years. Ironically, most of this happened after the pandemic that killed millions of people. We actually didn't lose a single community member from COVID-19, but boy, have we lost them in every other way. Myself, your caring team, your board of trustees, and your staff all suggested that we have this service where we could recognize that, a time when we can see the enormity of it and we can collectively mourn together. Of course, these individual losses have fallen hardest on the families and the close friends of the beloved. And this is difficult for me to say, but these collective losses have also landed very heavily on my shoulders. Some of you may know none 1, 3, maybe 10 of these people. But I've led the services, been involved with, provided pastoral care for, and or journeyed with the families for all of them. All 44 of them. In most cases, I barely had time to process one death before I got a call for another one. It's been exhausting. It's been traumatizing. And it has been an honor of my lifetime to walk with our beloveds as only a minister can. These things are all true at the same time. I realized that I might play the role of shock absorber in a congregation. I feel like sometimes I take on that initial shock, and as I spread it out, I'm hoping to lessen it as it goes out through the congregation. Now, that may not be a healthy role for me, but it is one that I feel like I have played. I'm one who receives a call or gets the call or somebody lets me know about it. I've processed it and then I've shared the information to others, hopefully in a caring way. At a certain point, our staff and board presidents were actually worried when I called them on the phone rather than emailing and texting, because it probably meant there was another death. And I am very grateful for our board for giving some relief with the part-time ministry support of Emrys Staten when finally, probably too late, I realized I needed some help. And there have been so many that have been caring a lot. Your caring team, your memorial service team, thank you, Linda. Benji, who has played for the majority of these services, and your loyal staff who have also loved so many of these people and held the space during the time. It has pushed the limits of our congregational infrastructure. It is hard to be productive when you're grieving. And a memorial service can take maybe 3 times the amount of time and energy as a regular Sunday worship, which, by the way, still needed to happen as well. As the grief is disseminated through the congregation, the ripples are felt, whether you knew it or not. Some of you heard it in your staff's tone, might have seen it in my face. Some of you knew it by the lack of email response or promises that were not kept. Death comes to us all eventually. Some of our losses were somewhat anticipated. They came with people who had lived long lives, maybe after a long hospitalization or nursing center care or a chronic condition or after years of dementia. But way too many of these have had the shockwave that has jolted mine and our systems in traumatic ways. Deaths by suicide, deaths leaving children behind, deaths by car accidents, drownings, deaths with unknown causes, asthma attacks, and house fires. Deaths of people who were way too young to die. Houses of worship are the places where we can collectively carry these things. Faith communities can name grief in ways that few other systems can. We can talk here about the difficult life transitions that occur in every life. Let's be honest, most people don't know how to talk about death or grief or how to sit with someone in grief or death. These are not conversations that will be held at the playground or the grocery store, even at dinner conversations, sometimes not even with good friends. In faith communities, death and grief can be named as part of that human experience. If you're uncomfortable naming it and being with it, then you at least know that I am not. We know that it is part of being human, and this is the place where we can bring all of those aspects of being human. This is what faith communities do. This is true of now, but I want to make sure we realize that it has always been true. And I want us to think of the importance of the role in the church and the civil rights movement. It was in the key movements and the moments where the church was organizing. They did it for the lunch counter sit-ins, the bus boycotts, the marches, the voting drives. But it was also the place for the weekly recharging to carry on the fight, week after week when it seemed like nothing was ever going to change. It was the place where grief for the systems of inequality and harm and oppression could be shared out loud and held. It was the place where hope could be found, a different hope than we may have at this time in a UU congregation, but still hope. And most of all, it was a place where people checked in on each other. They brought casseroles to those mourning, they held crying babies, and they buried their elders. These are the things that a house of worship can do in the civil rights movement and today. My friends, the world is on fire. We are still fighting those same things, those systems of inequality, harm, and oppression. We are mourning even this week for the tremendous loss we've seen in Los Angeles. We're mourning what's happening in the Middle East, and many of us are mourning an inauguration that will happen tomorrow. We are filled with grief, fear, and exhaustion. We are, in fact, pre-grieving, pre-fearful, and pre-exhausted for all the things that are going to happen. We don't exactly know their form, but we feel pretty confident that they will indeed happen. We are a faith community, and we need to carry each other through things like this, just like they did 70 years ago, just like they did 100 years ago, just like we'll be doing 70 years in the future, and just like what we're doing today. This is what we do. My friends, my beloveds, the world is on fire. We are grieving. We will continue to grieve. Let us remember Reverend King and his flocks. Let us remember that we are also the flocks. And let us put their legacy to good use. Let us be the faith community that names it, that holds it, that memorializes it, that walks with it, that works to heal it, and that creates some good trouble to try to change it. So might it be. I love you. Amen.
Song that I wanted to sing with you to end this service, memorial service, is by the gospel singer and pastor Hezekiah Walker. It's very unusual in the world of modern gospel, being a song that we sing not to God, but to each other, and to ourselves maybe, but certainly to each other. I need you to survive. It may not fit our theology exactly. There's a line in it that says, you look at your neighbor and you say, agree with me, agree with me. That's not something we usually say here at UUCP. But the message is worth it. So please do join us. The choir will sing the first verse, so y'all can chill out, and then we'll bring you in. Goes like this. Try that, folks. I need you. You need me. We're all a part. Stand with me. It is His will. You are important to me. I need you. Let's do that again. All that. Agree with me. We're all a part. It is His will. Okay, now this part's a little different. Let's let the choir do it first. So hold on a sec. Check it out. I pray for you. Everybody. I love you. Everybody, open your mouth and say, I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. Again, I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I won't harm you. I love you. Let's take it up, everybody. I pray for you.
relevant, but there is a session on hospice and palliative care at noon right here. Like, this might be a good reminder of it. And there is coffee hour just across the patio. My closing words, of course, are from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in his eulogy for the 4 little girls who were killed in Birmingham in 1963. The memorial, of course, was done in a church by a pastor, and Reverend King addressed the children's families. I have taken the audacious, maybe even heretical risk to replace the word God with love so it can land on you with the power of our faith. Now I say to you in conclusion, life is hard. At times as hard as a crucible of steel. It has its bleak and difficult moments. Like the ever-flowing waters of the river, life has its moments of drought and its moments of flood. Like the ever-changing cycle of the season, life has the soothing warmth of its summers and the piercing chill of its winters. And if one can hold on, they will discover that love walks with them and that love is able to lift them up from the fatigue of despair to the buoyancy of hope and transform dark and desolate valleys into sunlit paths of inner peace. So may it be. I love you. I need you to survive. Go in peace. Go in love.